masked throughout the room. As you can see, the board is not that close, so once we get our meeting underway, we will begin with the agenda. We've been in our work session, and now we're ready to convene to regular session. So if everyone would join me in standing on our next agenda item, it is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for our June 8th, 2021 meeting, our June 22nd, 2021 meeting, and our July 6th, 2021 meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
5-0.
All right. Item number 5, superintendent's presentation.
All right, thank you, board, and thank you, all of attendees today. You are in for a treat. We have 2 presentations today. The first presentation that we're going to do is to highlight the continued effort for us to invest in the mental health of our students and our staff. One of the things we've talked about at Mason City Schools for a long time is just the need to continue to care for the whole health of a child. We talk a lot about the physical health of our students, especially when it comes to COVID-19. That's all we hear about. But there's a whole nother side of our students, and that is their mental health. And so we want to make sure that we're always intentionally investing in that as a district, and not just for our students, but for our staff. All of us over the last year and a half have been through some level of trauma. That's one thing I think the whole room could agree upon. And as we go through those traumatic moments, whether it's the pandemic or it's loved ones or whatever your experience has been, we all know that we need to be intentionally investing in each other. And so one of the ways that we're doing that here at Mason City Schools is by what you will see tonight as our therapy dog program. And so I'm going to turn it over to our prevention and wellness administrator, Nicole Fearman, and she's going to tell a little bit about who you're going to meet tonight. Thanks.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here to introduce to you some of our lovable team members on the prevention and wellness team. As Jonathan said, about 3 years ago, the district made an intentional investment in the mental wellness of students, staff, and the community. And in doing so, we were approached by a couple of staff members on the interest and desire to have a therapy dog program at Mason. After doing a little bit of research, we joined forces with Circle Tails for our first therapy intern dog, Lucy, who we will meet in a couple of minutes. And she started supporting our ME and MI students in December of 2020. 3 months later, obviously, we entered the pandemic, and that really just sped along our need for these types of supports for our students across the district. So we are super excited to say that as the students walked back into the buildings this fall, each one of our campuses has their own therapy dog to support our students and our staff and our visitors as they come and visit the buildings. So now I'm going to introduce to you some of the therapy dogs, actually all of the current therapy dogs that we have. And we're going to ask that they come up, and they're going to get a little bit of a treat, I think. So this is Shiner. And Shiner's host is Robin Thomas, and she is one of our learning experience designers at Mason Early Childhood Center. Shiner works with our students in pre-K through 2nd grade. You can find Shiner reading books with students, visiting students who are struggling, working mostly with our counselors during the day. And Shiner was graciously donated to us through the Sable Gibson Foundation. Thank you so much, Scott. Yay, Shiner.
Brennan, may I ask you to be on point to take pictures tonight for me? That would be so wonderful.
Shiner.
Thank you to Scott.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All of that.
Our next friendly dog is Mr. Titan. Where is Titan? Here he is. Titan loves to play. Titan is currently supporting our dogs at 3 through 6. Titan is only about 18 months old, so he still has a lot of energy, which works well with our students who have a lot of energy. But you can also see Titan working to support our students who are experiencing acute crises, as well as just working with our counselors one-on-one during the day. And Titan was graciously donated through the Jake Williams, or in memory of Jake Williams, through the Mason Schools Foundation. Williams family.
And we're so glad to have the
Yeah, I was
Williams
just
family
like, oh,
with
there you are. Or maybe we'll get Titan to head up this way, perhaps. So our therapy dogs don't often get many treats when they're on duty, so this is a shock for them. They work all day without treats. Next is Lucy, and Lucy was our first therapy intern dog. So she is the original for us. She also supports our students in grades 3 through 6, spending most of her time at 5-6 working with our counselors. Lucy is much more shy, much more calm than her boy partners. So you can see her reading with students and laying down to be pet all day, every day. And Lucy, again, came to us through Circle Tails, which is the organization that we are currently working with. Yeah, Lucy's. Thanks, Lucy. And I have to mention, Amy Burns is the host. I forgot to say that. She is the one of the teachers over at MI. And so she hosts the dogs. And so I didn't mention that at the beginning, but what that means is the dog lives with our host family, even though the district owns the dogs. The host family brings the dogs to school every day to work with our students. Colby. Here comes Colby. He's our newest member. Colby is actually still considered an intern. He works at Mason Middle School. He also has a lot of energy, and our students absolutely love him. He was donated to us through the Love Like JJ family. Days, I don't see the days, but we really appreciate their support in this program. And Jay Reuter. Jay Reuter is Colby's host, and he's our assistant principal at the middle school. And then last but not least, we'll meet Mr. Hibbs. Mr. Hibbs works at the high school, and his host is Alex Burkett, who is our Hope Squad instructor. So Mr. Hibbs is also the Hope Squad. Only he sees himself in He's wondering about that bow tie. And so Mr. Hibbs works with our Hope Squad students as well as all of our students who are in need of social emotional support at the high school.
Want to get some more smells? We were in here this morning, actually. You can expect the next time you come to this room. Yeah.
some of all 5 of our friendly, lovable dogs that joined our prevention and wellness team over the last 18 months. And we couldn't be more grateful to those foundations and individuals that were able to help us get there, as well as our host families who so graciously take those dogs home and take care of them every night. We appreciate it, and we definitely appreciate the support of the community for helping us make this come to fruition. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Nicole. Hey, Nicole. Nicole, could we ask a couple questions? Would that be okay? So I think, I don't know that I need to ask this question because I think we saw the effect of having these dogs in and how it just kind of it just takes your temperature down wherever you're at. But can you speak a little bit about what this actually looks like in our classrooms and our buildings for students and staff and
as I
families?
mentioned, most of our dogs are currently working one-on-one with counselors during the day. And so some of the dogs visit full classrooms and get read to or get to visit the kids just working in the general education environment. But most of the time they're working with our counselors. So they're working to what I would call de-escalate students who are struggling, whether they're feeling really anxious about coming to school, whether they're feeling anxious. As Jonathan mentioned, all of our students coming back into our buildings this year have experienced some level of trauma, and that's different for every student. But so what we have seen is a higher frequency of anxiety, depression in our students, and so the dogs are helping to support those students in addition to our human supports of counselors.
And even just beyond that, like the general population that might not have acute enough, instances of anxiety or, pop-ups of anxiety. I can speak for my family of a 5th grader and 2 3rd graders that they tell me about their day. I've heard all about Shiner from MECC, and I could just tell it wasn't just that they were seeing a dog. Like I could tell that the impact that it had on their day and their learning. And so that's just fantastic. That
our
there's a net
students,
benefit for everybody.
as they walk through the halls of each building, really, they all know the dogs, and the dogs definitely bring positive joy to our hallways.
Thank you, Nicole.
Nicole.
Mr. Gibson would like to speak on that.
Sure thing.
Thank you. I'm Scott Gibson. I just wanted to let you know that your question prompted kind of why we wanted to bring a dog to the schools, because when, sorry. When Sable passed, we went back into the schools 2 days later. We saw that there were dogs there. And what we are saddened about is that these were dogs from other places, because at that time we didn't have any. And so that's why we wanted to get involved firsthand. And when I say we, it's the community at large, because we didn't pay for the dog. It's not coming from me, it's coming from the community, which makes it even greater. It's the community giving back to a need, and we are just shining light on a need that we saw for our kids. And Robin's been a personal friend of ours for over 20 years, and she helped us with this. So I thank you for making that happen. So this is actually the second dog that the community was able to buy through the Shine Like Sable Foundation. The first one is delayed because of COVID, so we actually got the second one first. So there is another one coming, but it was, and I know people on our street actually had some service dogs that they were able to bring in to the Mason schools. So that's why, and that question prompted me just to let you know that the reason behind it. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. And Scott, to that point, there are 2 other dogs that are supported by the community too, through the Love Like JJ Foundation and our Mason Schools Foundation, right? That's not necessarily the Day family. They have support for their family and their family's foundation as well. And the Mason Schools Foundation doesn't do anything without the support of the community, stepping up and donating and making things happen. So you're exactly right that at least 3 of our dogs directly provided by our community, and that's just incredible. So thank you.
Nicole, to the point of community involvement, one thing I failed to give us a prompt on, but I would love it if you could also acknowledge our local veterinarians and groomers who are also stepping up to support our dogs.
Yes, So we have several veterinary practices in Mason. Dr. Wolf, the Animal Care Foundation, Animal Care Hospital, I believe, is in Blue Ash. I could be mistaken on that. But we have several veterinarians who have stepped up to take care of our dogs for their working life and beyond. But what that means is all of their veterinary care is taken care of at no cost to the district.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much for bringing our dogs in tonight, and we are all very impressed. They're very good boys and girls that we're happy to have in our buildings.
Thank you.
It
Thank
was
you.
nice. We've heard about the dogs, and you've presented before on the dogs, so to have them here today is really special.
We love being here. Anytime you want dogs to join. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank you,
you.
everybody.
All right, the next presentation that we have this evening are, we thought we would combine these two just for fun and do a kind of presentation, but I don't know that we're going to try that here. But it's our Ultimate Frisbee state champions. And so this Ultimate Frisbee team, they are known around the country. This is like the hub of Ultimate Frisbee. I've talked to Coach a little bit about this. I'm sure he'll share a little bit more details, but a lot of people don't realize the talent that we have right here. We all have talent in a lot of different areas, but our Ultimate Frisbee team is next level. So I'd like to ask Coach to come up and share a little bit about what is Ultimate Frisbee? What do we have in store?
Well, great. Well, thank you, first of all, for having us here, having the team here. I'd like to first introduce them and have them stand up and be recognized. We have our first two of our captains, William Wettengale, Adi Deepak, Adam A. Dubb, Andrew Bowser, Sean Speidel, Jared Stagman, and Joe Payton. And on behalf of all those who have graduated, we have Om Patel's parents here, and Om's been a tremendous player of ours, but we've had a lot of seniors that have graduated. But Patel's, thank you, and all the other parents for the support that you guys give to make this happen. So thank you. Along the lines of thanking folks, the support that we get here in the Mason community is incredible, and it starts right here with Lori Allen, the Student Activities Director. Her support for our team is just tremendous. And Kim Ashman, who does the facilities, is constantly trying to work with us to get field space, which is important for these young athletes to get out and compete. And then Amy Camello, she helps us with the background checks, because I don't do this alone. We've got a lot of other coaches, and what I try to do is bring in graduates who have graduated, but we need to make sure they get their background check. So they're not always prompt in telling me when they're going to come out, but we always make sure they've got their background check, and she's always doing it for me quickly. So that's tremendous. And then Paul Reedy, who was the soccer coach here, he's working with them during the connect time, getting them time to go outside and connect and play. And it's not just our team, it's getting new players playing. And then the athletic department, Scott Stemple, Kathy Crotty, and Dylan, they really work with us to help. We don't belong to the Ohio High School Athletic Association, but they treat us like we do, and that means a lot to these athletes. So I just want to make sure we thank those folks first. You asked a little bit about how the sport's played. We play on a football-type field, so it's a 70 yards by 40 yards with 20-yard end zones. The movement is a lot like soccer, so you're passing the Frisbee back and forth, but the defense is like basketball, so that's kind of how you play the game. Takes a lot of athletic kids, and we bring in all kids, even if they're playing other sports. So we've got kids who are running cross country and playing soccer, and we still find opportunities for them. And I think that's important, is to get kids that aren't just one sport. It's important to be cross-sport players. So, and then the last thing that's neat about our sport is that we don't have referees. We're a self-officiated sport, and it's about spirit of the game and respect for. You want to play competitively, but you want to have mutual respect for your opponent. And that's what sets these folks apart. And a couple of our players just got back from Minnesota playing on a select team, and their team won the Spirit Trophy up there. And that, to me, says a lot about the character that this school builds and players that go off to other places. And the last thing speaking about the community, we just had a team, 40 teams come from all over the country played up at Warren County Sports Park this weekend. Next summer, we're going to have the World's Tournament back here in town. So teams from all over the world are going to descend upon the Mason community, and they'll be doing the first game here at Mason. The plan is that they'll be doing the first game here at Mason and doing the finals here at Mason, which is what we did 4 years ago. And so again, the support that this community gives to Ultimate Frisbee is just absolutely tremendous. So with that, that's what I have. And if you have any questions, they'd love to answer questions.
Yeah, who's going to be the sacrificial lamb up there at the podium to answer our questions? All right, team captain. Have you got a prepared statement there that you're ready to read, or yeah?
So I'm gonna first talk about. I'm gonna go further into detail of spirit of the game, and spirit of the game is the most important part of the sport. And it's a set of principles that places the responsibility on the players to keep fair play and fair-mindedness. Even if you think a call's bad, you can contest it, but you don't argue, and I think that's great. There's no unlevel-headedness, you know. And then all the players are responsible for knowing the rules, and this is because there's no refs, and I think that's better than I play soccer as well, and there's kids who play soccer and don't know the rules and just yell at the refs the whole time. But since all the kids know the rules, there's not as much argument, and it's a very well-behaved community. And then I'd like to go further into thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank my father. Without this man, without my father, Frisbee, and not only Mason, but all of Cincinnati wouldn't be as around, it wouldn't be as popular. And he does I've seen it myself because I live with him. And he's up all night checking players' backgrounds, final forms. He's always on top of kids for final forms, payments. It's just all that stuff that's boring, but he does that. And then I'd like to thank our coach, who isn't here with us, sadly, but his name's Joel Holmes. And without him, he built the Mason Frisbee program to the level that it is. And he's one of my role models. I think he's a great guy. And I'd like to thank the players, the seniors that graduated, and even the alumni for setting an example for the team. And yeah.
Yeah, you're not off the hot seat yet. No. So tell us about the journey to state. What were the trials and tribulations, the highs and the lows?
So COVID is a thing, and it really affected us. At first, when COVID hit, the whole entire Frisbee program just got shut down. We lost a bunch of kids because right as we got a bunch of kids to start signing up, it's just COVID hit, and like they didn't want to come out. They were cautious about COVID, and then we actually shut it down because COVID. And another thing is we've had a lot of coaches come and mentor us. It wasn't just Joel. We've had CJ and other coaches, and they've actually had to stop coaching for a while because they couldn't make it out anymore because they've got jobs. And then the first day of States, so States was a 2-day tournament up in Versailles, Ohio, and the first day we didn't win all the games, and it was a whole entire mentality like thing. But the second day we came out, and we actually had to play one more game because we weren't in the top two, and we ended up beating Milford, who's a big competitor, a big rival. They have a great program there, and Beaver Creek, who we actually lost to the first day. We came back, and I think it's because Mason is a team that perseveres through trials and tribulations. And we were down in that game 4-2, and then we just kept on scoring, and we were positive the whole time. And that's what it's all about, positivity.
What was the final score?
It was 11-9. We won.
Nice. Who are the toughest competitors around the state of Ohio in Ultimate Frisbee?
Milford is always good because they have a good program that brings in players from all different sports, football, cross country, soccer. So they always have great athletes. And then another really good team is Moeller because they have a great coach, a great coaching program, great coaching staff. Zach Kaler, he's actually my coach for club. He coaches at Moeller. St. X is a good team. And Beaver Creek, I didn't know how good the Beaver Creek, I didn't realize how good the Beaver Creek program was until this year, and they were very good.
Well, I love hearing about the spirit of the game and how you guys kind of self-referee. I think that's a really neat concept and cool and unique to Ultimate Frisbee. I know that, it can probably vary from sport to sport how successful that might be, but that's really, really neat to hear that you guys are able to, as a community, not just, within Mason, but the whole for the sake of the sport and its success. That's awesome. Any other questions, comments for our visitors?
I just have one question. So you're self-regulating. How is a call made? Is there a foul in the game? And if there is, how is that called?
So there are fouls. And if someone is to foul you, say they hit your hand and they know it's a foul or they don't know it's a foul, they can either contest or uncontest. So you call it as you get hit. Like, say I got hit, I would call it, I'd say foul, contact. And then the person who hit me, they can either contest it and say, I don't think I hit you, I think I hit the disc. Or they can uncontest it and they'll say, yes, I believe that I hit you. And then you just get the disc back and it restarts stall. So you only have 10 seconds to get the disc out of your hands.
Awesome.
To love its integrity of both players, right?
Yes, and it's only the players on the field that can call the calls, but sideline can help with the rules, but coaches actually are just silent. They can tell you the rules, but they can't be like, that was a foul, or that wasn't a foul.
Interesting.
We talk
I
about
like it.
life lessons in sports. There's one right there.
Well, thank you for sharing with us and congratulations to your team.
Thank you. And then one more thing is that my bad, is Ultimate Frisbee. What's so great about it is it's not only is it just men, just women in the spring, but in the fall it's co-ed. So you're building and you're having a team made up of all different people.
So you play in the fall and in the spring? Fall is female team, male team, and then the spring is co-ed team? Or
Fall is co-ed,
fall is co-ed, okay.
and then spring is single gender.
Okay.
Moeller and St. X probably have a tough time beating you guys in the fall, I bet.
Yes, they do.
So MND and Moeller combined, and then St. Ursula.
No,
Well,
Of course.
not so much.
got to bend the rules for
Like prom.
we got to help those guys out. Well, thank you guys very much for coming and talking and visiting us. Yeah, and if we could, we'd love to get a picture with you guys.
I know you have gifts for our state champs, but very rarely do people come, state champs come and bring presents to the board. So
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys.
not only are they
Awesome.
consistent, but boy. And what might be fun is if a few of the guys might take those Frisbees, or the board take some of those Ultimate Frisbees,
up with the picture.
Guys, we've got these for you as well.
We'll have the team come in front of the lineup here.
Want to stand by him up there?
Look at that.
You got a 6'4". We're not sure either. You know, Tracy will tell us how she
Maybe,
finds it.
yeah, actually, that would work.
Where do you want us?
They're gonna leave, they're gonna kneel. They
Oh,
just, they just came up with a great
I like
idea.
that. I think that's what we should do.
Kevin's like, there's a 6'4" guy.
You know what, can I have you switch? And Coach, just scooch in over here.
Look at that. Look at the branding. They've got their Gmail on the badge.
Brilliant.
If I have follow-up questions, I know where to send them.
That's right. One, yeah, you're fine. 1, 2, 3. Oh, terrific. One more. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, fellas.
Good job, guys.
Nice job up there, man. Really nice job. Congratulations.
All right. Another round of applause and thank you for our service dogs and our ultimate Frisbee team. Also wanted to acknowledge and thank the family of Jake Williams for their very generous donation making the Mason schools.
Down for just one moment.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank the family of Jake Williams for their very generous donation. I know we had thanked some of our other families earlier and wanted to extend our appreciation to them as well for making the Mason Schools Foundation dog available. At this time, this is a time in our meeting where we take a pause to move on to our next item. So everybody's obviously welcome to maintain for the rest of the night, but if you were here for our superintendent presentations alone, you are free to go. So we encourage you to enjoy the rest of your evening.
The dogs can get home.
Yeah,
No, so they don't have
dogs
an
can
extra
go
long night.
sip their water.
There's some bones over here if you need something to entertain you.
17.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is our hearing of the public. I'm going to go ahead and read our hearing of the public policy before we get started here. All meetings of the board and board-appointed committees are open to the public. The board encourages community input during the hearing of the public section of all regular meetings. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation may be permitted at each meeting. Community participation at a board meeting is limited to the hearing of the public portion of the meeting, and the board will not deliberate or decide any issue during the hearing of the public section. Each person addressing the board shall sign the attendance sheet. I've got all our attendance sheets up here. Complete and return a request to speak form. That's what these are, actually. And be a resident or employee of the Mason City School District. Each person is allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. If 3 minutes is not sufficient, the person is encouraged to put his or her thoughts, comments in writing to the board members. The period of public participation may be extended or reduced by a vote of the majority of the board present and voting. In order to prevent disclosure of students' or employees' private information, the board will not allow any complaints about specific employees of the district in public session. Agendas are available to all those who attend board meetings. The section of the agenda for public participation shall be indicated. Noted on the hearing of the public request to speak form shall be a brief summary of the board's guidelines regarding public participation at board meetings. And I'll note, I've taken a look at a lot of these, and I understand that masks are going to be a popular topic tonight. Before we get started with that, I recognize that people taking the podium tonight are going to have different opinions on this, in some cases vastly different opinions. I would ask that whatever your opinion is, regardless of where you stand on this issue, that you maintain respect and decorum during this portion of the meeting. We're cognizant that this is a hot button issue. We've seen it discussed and debated around the community. We won't, engage in a lot of, as a board, we don't engage in a back and forth. There's not a dialogue discussion during this. So you're welcome to take this podium and speak, what you'd like to say. But in order to maintain this in an efficient manner and to hear everybody and to get those in who have come tonight, we're going to ask that you maintain decorum, that we don't get into applause or booing or anything of that sort. And again, since we've noticed that masks are obviously a hot topic, Jonathan, I'd like you to just kind of touch on where we are at this time as a district with respect to masking.
Sure, thanks, Charles. So just to recap really quickly as fast as I can, last year, we came into a year that people thought we would have the doors open for maybe 2 days, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 2 months, and we ended up keeping the doors open in our schools for the entire year. We actually ended up being a model school for the country to see how you can keep schools open and keep kids and staff safe. And so that's what we did last year. That was not easy. I give a lot of credit to our team and to our board for continuing to look at the data, continuing to listen to experts, and continuing to make good common sense decisions with the information that we had. So that's how we navigated last year. We're fortunate because we have the same team in place this year, the same team of leaders helping lead the way. And so last year, what you probably heard us talk a lot about was the problem with quarantines. And so quarantines became a huge issue. And so just a quick reminder, because this is a little rusty in a lot of people's minds, but isolation is when you have COVID and you're positive, you're isolated. Quarantine means you were exposed as a close contact. A close contact last year was within 6 feet of someone that had COVID-19. And so each time we had a positive case come into our schools, we had to quarantine, and that's not us as a school district quarantining. That is what's given to us by the order through our health department. So our health department gives us the order that we quarantine. We carry it out here in a practical way and partner with them. And so when we would have a kid sitting just think about yourself right now. If you're sitting right where you are and someone next to you came in with a positive case, then you would be, if you're within 6 feet of them, you would be quarantined. You would be sent home for 14 days. No matter if you felt sick, no matter what the case, that's the rule. And so we challenged that as a school district over time, because at first we did everything we were asked to do, and then we said, let's press pause, because the data that we were collecting was we were noticing that kids were sitting at home and they weren't testing positive, the ones that were testing, and they did not have symptoms. So they were asymptomatic and they were feeling well and they were sitting at home for 14 days. Now, we talk about the physical concerns of COVID. There's also the mental health of our kids. When you're sitting at home for 14 days, you're socially isolated away from the rest of your class that you've been used to being with. And so that became an issue, and that was a concern of ours. And so we went and we sat down with the state, and I wrote several letters, and the governor finally saw those and started to engage in conversation, and we had a conversation at the state level. That brought in Ohio State University, Wright State University, and medical experts from around the region, including Cincinnati Children's, to look at our data closely, because we had the largest data set in the region, if not the state or the country, because we have large schools. As we looked at that data carefully together with everyone, because no one had been through this pandemic or COVID before. So it wasn't like we had experts sitting out there thinking, I've been through a pandemic. We just didn't have that. I didn't have anybody to turn to. So we did that as a community, and we looked at that together, and that ended up starting a research project that we looked at closely in our classrooms. That research project led to policy change at the state level. The policy change at the state level then traveled on to the national level and changed the way that quarantines were looked at across the nation, and that was that you have an opportunity to shorten that 14 days into 10 days. And then you could shorten it even further if you took a test on the 5th day. So we started to learn together. And so we're a learning community. Remember, I'm not a health expert, and we're not health experts. We're education experts if we're anything. And so our main goal is to keep our schools open so that we can educate our kids with Mason quality so that they can continue to be successful in the world around them. That's why we wake up every day excited to come to work. And so this year, again, we find ourselves in this interesting space. Over the last 4 or 5 weeks, we have found this new variant. And again, we look around and people are learning about it again. And so we find ourselves in this major learning cycle. And so as we look at that, one of the things that changed at the state level this year that's different than last year is if you have a mask on, then you are not subject to quarantine. If you're in a classroom and you have some level of social distance or the school is making efforts to make that distance, that's a game changer. Because again, think about where you're sitting right now. Last year, if you had a mask on, didn't matter, you had to be quarantined. This year, if you have a mask on, you don't have to be quarantined. The quarantine, the whole concept of the quarantine, it weighs on our teachers because our teachers are sitting here trying to teach kids in person, and they have kids at home. And so they're trying to do both of these worlds, and that's a really tough space to be in. So the teachers and I had a lot of conversation last year about what we could do, and so we put all kinds of things in place last year, and that was difficult. This year, because of that new rule saying basically if a kid has a mask on, then they're not going to be subject to quarantine, that's what started us down the pathway of looking at, hey, if we put masks on our kids, especially in K-6, because K-6, they don't have the option to vaccinate. And so we started to look at that and started to ask ourselves, how can we keep the integrity of our educational programming intact the best that we can? We don't personally like masks. I don't like to wear masks. I don't think anybody in the world, I've not met a person yet that has come up to me and said, I love to wear a mask. However, there are lots of different reasons why. And so we heard that. And so we looked at that data and we said, if you start to calculate that out, we are going to begin to quarantine classrooms very quickly because this variant is spreading a lot faster than the last version of this. And the last thing we want to do is have disruptive education for our teachers, for our students, and for our families, because when we send students home, it disrupts the families as well. So we were handed these options that weren't the best options, and we chose the one that we felt like was the way to go for the time being, and that was to meet our kids where they were and say, we'll go pre-K through 6 with masks so that no one is at risk of quarantining and being socially isolated at home, but they can stay here in school. They can find, for those that need to have masks on for lots of reasons, can find the safety in that. For those that want to just be a part of school and the social piece, we can guarantee that we can build that stability in our mask decisions. So that was part of our decision making. It's not perfect. We'll continue to monitor that. We do have that optional or strong recommendation for our 7 through 12. If you're in 7 through 12, you have the option to vaccinate. When you vaccinate or you wear a mask, those two factors keep you from quarantining and keep you at school. So those are the things that we continue to look at. And we continue to work with our local partners on that. So that's where we sit. That's just a quick run through history and where we end up today, and that we'll continue to monitor our data and hopefully continue to adjust as we go forward.
Thank you, Jonathan. Last thing I'll mention before we begin here, we do have well in excess of 10 speakers tonight. I would ask that anybody who's taken the mic be mindful of while you have, obviously you're allocated up to 3 minutes, be mindful of the people who are here that, we would like to really try to adhere to our 30-minute total policy. If you hear something that's said prior to you that you just endorse and we can acknowledge that would be very much appreciated by everybody in here so that, we can all get on with our evening tonight. So with that, our first speaker I have is Rebecca Rush.
Hello, school board and Mr. Cooper. I thank you for the time here. I just want to start off by saying we're very happy as a family here, and we really do acknowledge and appreciate all that you did last year to work through the COVID pandemic. It was not easy, as you stated earlier, so we really do appreciate that. However, we now have a year's worth of data, and I really want to stress how unhappy we were with the mask mandate coming out with the pre-K through 6th grade. I kind of want to bring back in and talk about the service dogs. It wasn't even on my platform, but to acknowledge that there's some trauma here. You're also inflicting trauma on the kids that have to wear the masks. So that's also something I'd like us to be very cognizant and aware of. I know you guys are very involved with the community, and I really appreciate that, but I think we want to think about that too. So I would like to start off by saying that I do have 2 children here in the school district, and last year I received a phone call in the fall that my daughter had passed out and fallen, and I needed to come to the school to get her. And when I picked up my daughter, she had passed out because of a lack of oxygen through her mask. So there are health concerns that we need to think of, along with balancing the load of what the teachers have and keeping our kids in school. There are definite health risks, and numerous studies have come out to show and point to that. Not only that, I'll circle back to my speech here. And I did send you all back on August 5th an email to each of you board members. Mr. Cooper, thank you for your response. I really appreciate your response on that. But I also attached studies and videos. And in one of those videos, Dr. Fauci himself said masks don't work. Then we also see a video, if you took the time to look at it, where somebody is breathing and all the particles are going out of the mask. So the mask is kind of like a little bit of a social experiment. I feel safe because I have a mask, or I am safe because I have a mask. And if we want to kind of dig into the CDC, they also did a study last March showing that there was less than a 2% decrease in COVID cases after 100 days of mask wearing. How many days are we in school? So then I want to go back to what's on your website, the MCSD, Mason City School District Policy Manual. It's available online. Under the legal status, it states clearly.
Thank you, Ms. Rush.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is, folks, appreciate your applause. If we could keep it to a minimum, we'll be able to get through more of these tonight. Our next speaker is Megan Smith.
Hi, my name is Megan. In February 2020, you invited me here to speak at the school board meeting about the common kid values that I've been taught as a Mason student. I shared with you about persistence, resilience, empathy, optimism, and caring for myself and others. You last heard my voice just before the COVID shutdown, but tonight I asked my parents if I could come speak to you again. I wanted to thank you for mandating masks in my school to keep my unvaccinated friends and I healthy, safe, and in school. The common kid values you all taught me and my faith call for me to leave my mask on and face all day so that I can care for myself and others. I will wear my mask all day long so that I can be the leader that my unvaccinated friends and I deserve. Thank you for being leaders who care and mandating masks. Since you mandated masks, I don't feel nervous about going to school. But before I go, I do have a question for you. What happens for my middle school brother if the cases at Mason Middle School start to increase? Will you mandate masks or keep them optional? Last year, I online learned to keep ourselves and our community safe. This year, we really want to be in school, but we also deserve a healthy and safe school environment. It's your responsibility to give us that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Megan. Again, same thing, both perspectives. We appreciate if we can get through this. Melissa Camel.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity. We are new to Mason this year from out of state, and I'm a parent of a 4th and a 6th grader. And we were excited to move to Mason because of your academic success you've had, but also due to your mask mandate last year, all year. We looked at the numbers, we saw how successful Mason School District was, keeping your numbers low. Thank you, Mr. Cooper, for mandating masks again. My kids are excited to go back. We're glad everyone in the class has masks on. They don't feel left out because they are wearing masks and keeping others safe. I hope the board will continue to uphold that if need be, if it's put to a vote. Due to Delta, due to the fact that my kids can't be vaccinated yet. We were virtual for half the year. Where we came from, the first half, we saw it wasn't spreading in schools due to masks. I put my kids back in January full time. They were never quarantined. So I really appreciate that the goal we all have is to keep our kids safe and keep them in school, period. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Camel. Our next speaker is Jillian Coons. Jillian Coons. Oh, okay.
I just had a question. How are you doing the forms? Because
this is not a back and forth. We're gonna go by who I call.
You're not calling my form, and I might not get to speak. And I put mine down first.
Ma'am, we're doing it the way that we've always done it. All right. Thank you. Ms. Coons, go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you. I could read off statistics about the effectiveness of masks that are worn incorrectly, and on about the science. But that won't be effective because that is not what I am fighting for. You can easily see that in the room we have two clear opinions. Those that believe masks are what is best for their children, and those that believe children should be able to breathe. I think though we all can agree that what we want is what is best for our children. All we ask is that you give parents the choice to make that decision. It is our responsibility as parents to advocate for our children. They don't have a voice, so we have to be the voice for them. I know what's best for my children. The district does not. You will never get these two sides to agree, so why can't we work on a solution where everyone is allowed to choose what is best for their student? There are several school districts that have created unmasked and masked classrooms. It is working. It is the parents' right to choose what is best for their child. You tell us today that they have to wear a mask. What is tomorrow? That they have to be vaccinated? These are personal choices that we make in our home. I don't parent with the district. I parent with my husband, and it is our choice what is best for our 4 children in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coons. Our next speaker is Manisha Godbol.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is Dr. Manisha Godbol, and I'm a parent of 2 daughters in Mason City Schools. So Mason City Schools are one of the best schools, not only in Ohio, but the entire country, and I'm proud to be Comet parent. When pandemic hit in 2020, MCS was a success story. Mason City School was a success story with their in-person learning plan and by following all the mitigation recommendations against COVID-19. Unlike elsewhere in the country, our in-person learning students did not show any lag in their education. Thank you once again for following the science and data and mandating facial coverings for students in grade 6 and younger who are not yet eligible to receive COVID-19 vaccines. Families shell out a lot of money to buy houses and pay extra taxes compared to our neighboring districts and move to stay here in Mason City School from all around the world. So strong leadership, excellent teachers, motivated students, and engaged families is what makes a school district shine in academic as well as extracurricular activities. This is exact formula for our Mason Comet success story. However, once politics enters the education, all these pillars start crumbling down. And it's unfortunate to see such thing happening in my community. So please continue to keep our political differences aside and adapt and adjust to the situation with regard to pandemic around us, and keep our children safe and healthy and in school. Recommendations for facial coverings for unmasked, especially when community transmission rate is high, were never lifted. Only the mandate had been lifted, and that's because of politics. And unfortunately, again, due to politics, the same mandate cannot be reinstated, but unfortunately, it's falling down to school board and the superintendent. And I understand facial coverings are not for all, especially for differently abled, but I'm not aware of any religion that would preach against taking care of each other. After all, we do have peanut-free zones. We do the active shooter drills for youngest of the youngest. So if we adapt to the right mindset and adjust with surroundings, we can do this together and make it an endemic instead of pandemics. Isn't that what schools are for? And isn't that what we learn through education? So they teach to follow, the schools teach us to follow science, they teach us to follow data, and they teach us to critically think. And that's what I want you to do. And kudos to your great job you have done so far. And I expect you to continue to keep quality in Mason schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goldbowl. All right, our next speaker is Cara Johnson.
Hello, my name is Cara Johnson. I am a mom of a 6th grader and a 4th grader. Last year, we did online school for 2 reasons. One, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I have the privilege to be able to keep my kids home, keep them safe, and to also help stop the spread in the school district and in our community. So that's what I did. I also did it because my son is immunocompromised, and I worry about what might happen to him if he were to come in contact with COVID. So we have been as careful as we possibly can. I want to thank you for what you did last year. I was so surprised to see how well the school district did. And I want to thank you for doing it again this year. I put my kids back in school after watching what happened last year and knowing that you did a great job, and knowing that my kid will be safe if everyone is masked and follows the protocols that you did last year. So I want to thank Jonathan Cooper for following the science, following the data, and requiring masks for the 6th grade, especially the children, the 6th grade and under, the children that cannot be vaccinated. I'd also like to say that as cases surge in the community, I know you will continue to watch the data and watch how things are moving through the school system, and I would fully support mask mandates in the higher grades if we see that it may be unsafe for our children to not have those masks. I want to say that I think this is really about following science and not giving a voice to the conspiracies and the misinformation that is spread. I also want to say that
Folks,
I
please.
wear a mask for humility because I don't know if I have COVID. And as it's known, some people that are vaccinated can spread COVID without knowing. I wear a mask for kindness. I don't know if the person next to me is immunocompromised or unable to be vaccinated. And I wear a mask for my community because I want my school and my kids to stay in school and stay open. And I would hope that that is what we all stand for in this community and what we would all want. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jamie Gladden.
Thanks.
I think we should probably be starting the clock because it is a cumulative amount. So I think it's probably a good idea. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I don't want that to count against your time, really. Yeah.
I'm not going to
Thank
touch
you.
the podium because unlike the masks, COVID does spread through touch. None of y'all have actually antibacterial wiped this, so I don't think you're that concerned about the spread of COVID. Anyway, good evening. I'm Jamie Gladden. I'm a parent of a 10-year-old boy who attends Mason Intermediate. I'd like to open by saying we're all here today because we care about our kids. We're also here because we disagree on how to care for them. Everyone here has the same common denominator. We know what is best for our family. This is true no matter your stance. Everyone can absolutely agree on that. We're all here for our kids. I am going to present you my view using real science. Okay, I have the utmost respect for what y'all do. I love educators. You guys are amazing. You really are the superheroes of our communities. You really, really are. I can't educate, okay? But what I can do is I can be a registered nurse, and I am. And even though I'm not an educator and I am a registered nurse, advocacy and patient-centered care delivered through educated and licensed individuals using evidence-based practice developed by rigorous scientific research is what I do. I had to go to school and obtain a nursing license to practice nursing. I have what is called a scope of practice. If I practice medicine outside of my boundaries of my scope of practice, I can be fined, lose my license and career, and even be sentenced to prison. I love my fellow human, but more than that, I have a duty. I have to, by law, inform my patient if I know something to be harmful. It's called informed consent. I am also, by law, a mandatory reporter of abuse. I'd also like to point out for the 19th year in a row, nurses have been voted the most trusted profession. So when I tell you, please trust me at what I'm about to present you. It's science. It's uncensored science. It hasn't been blocked by mainstream media. It is real research, okay? So you will notice a couple of areas I would like to bring to your attention. First, in the packet that I provided that you will have is a study published by Elsevier. I would like to bring to your attention the abstract of this research. Part of that said several studies support the aerosol transmission of SARS-CoV-2 plausible and plausibility score is 8 out of 9. Precautionary control strategies should consider aerosol transmission for effective mitigation. In case you missed that, it said the plausibility rate for the virus to be aerosolized is 8 out of 10. And then if you will notice in the introduction of the case study, it says recently the WHO, World Health Organization, acknowledged aerosol transmission of COVID-2, especially in close indoor settings, and aerosol transmission could not be ruled out for some reported outbreaks. This study is important to establish the virus is aerosolized because depending on the type of transmission of pathogen, don't worry, somebody else will come up.
Our next speaker is Samina Akbar.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Samina Akbar. I have 3 kids in the system, a 2nd grader, a 7th, 8th grader, and a 11th grader. Last time I was in this room, actually, you guys were honoring National Science Olympiad, and that's the first time I came into this room. So today, actually, I took my 3 boys for their well checkup, and I wasn't actually intending to come because I'm a little bit of not a public speaker. So the first thing that I saw was the sign at my doctor's office about TriHealth's mask, why we wear a mask. And in just a second, I will bring it up. my kids are wearing a mask in the high school and the middle school, and I'm very happy that you've allowed mask mandate for the younger kids who cannot be vaccinated. I can't tell you how worried I was before that came along, how many nights of not sleeping I had, because I was really worried for him. We kept him at school, at home, all the year before, and he was just excited to come back to school. So I thank you for that. And then I was telling you, for the doctor's office, it says transmission probabilities. If my son is wearing a mask and a COVID carrier has no mask, there's a 70% transmission probability. If a COVID carrier has a mask on and a child that doesn't have a mask on, a healthy child has no mask, there's 5% chance the healthy child might get sick because the COVID carrier does have a mask on. And if both are wearing a mask, there's a 1.5% chance of transmission. So it's significant. From 70 from COVID carrier with no mask, and then 5% COVID carrier with mask, and 1.5% for both people wearing a mask. It's significant. I tell my kids to be safe, and when I see data like that in their doctor's office, who I trust, and I trust the pediatricians, if there's something wrong with my kids, they're the one I seek advice from. And they all say masks are important. I just want to protect my kids. And again, I'm just a very concerned mom, and I do thank you for taking everything in consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Akbar. Our next speaker is Rhonda Hegel.
Hello. My name is Rhonda Hegel.
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
I currently have 2 children enrolled in the Mason City schools. I'm here to speak in response to the recent mask mandate for our children. I know it's difficult to make these decisions when you're dealing with high emotions on either side, but your job is to educate our children, not mandate medical decisions. Masks are medical devices. In order to place these on our children, you are required to obtain informed consent. Informed consent means that you have to provide the understanding and nature for a procedure or medical device. You need to understand the risks and benefits and offer reasonable alternatives and understand the risks and benefits of the alternatives as well. It also states that consent cannot be obtained under coercion. I have not seen or received any paperwork that provides me with the risks and benefits or side effects of a child wearing a mask for 7 to 8 hours a day. I also did not receive any alternative options, or was I asked for my permission to apply a medical device on my child. I'm pretty sure that saying a child won't be able to attend in-person public school and receive a free and appropriate education is a form of coercion. With that being said, you have not met any criteria for informed consent. Since none of this was provided for me, I did my own research, which I highly recommend and encourage all of you to do. I have read study after study and could gladly provide all of this research for you, stating that masks are ineffective and do not prevent the spread of viruses. Only in a sterile setting is an N95 fitted mask that is not touched and changed every 2 hours beneficial at all. Kids need oxygen to breathe and for proper brain development. Kids need to have the ability to communicate and read emotions and intentions in the face of others. There are also multiple studies stating that long-term mask wearing has detrimental negative effects and consequences impacting not only their breathing, but mental health, including anxiety, depression, isolation, lowered self-esteem. I'm wondering, are all of you for the masks willing to take on the liability for any adverse effects on our children's health? Are any of the doctors or nurses that say they are for this mandate willing to sign a notarized form with their signatures and license numbers, accepting full responsibility for any and all adverse reactions? Nothing is a one-size-fits-all. Your child's needs are not my child's needs. Not to mention, this is all because of a virus with over a 99% survival rate. You will never...
Folks, please.
You will never convince me that a healthy person breathing air is the problem here. Also, have any of you done any research on how many people have died from the vaccines? All of you that are for masks and vaccines, do you know how many people have died? Do you know the negative side effects of a vaccine? Please leave health decisions to the parents and their doctors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hugel. Our next speaker is Judy Trees.
I'm Judy Treese. I have an 8th grader and a 9th grader at Mason. I came here tonight to ask that you reconsider the district's masking policy. Adopting universal mask mandates can save lives and avert future lockdowns. Based on the Warren County Health Department numbers, only approximately 50 to 60% of those 12 to 18 years old have been vaccinated. Although we don't know exact numbers for the City of Mason kids, I have no reason to believe that they don't deviate from those averages. The CDC, the AAP, the State of Ohio Health Department, and Warren County Health Department all have recommended universal masking. We heard last year from school administration how masks work. And the surprisingly low transmission rate would support that. So why are we not protecting all of our kids this year? We all hoped that the vaccine would come and this would all end. Instead, viruses do what viruses do. It mutated enough to cause new variants, of which the Delta is more serious, more contagious, causing symptoms to develop quicker, and more children get sick, including children that have been vaccinated. Now we need to be thankful for the vaccine because if the vaccinated do contract COVID, it probably won't kill them. Symptoms may not be as severe, but that is only if you do not have a pre-existing condition, which there are many. There are over 80 different types of autoimmune diseases that can either, 1, increase the likelihood of more severe COVID symptoms, or 2, trigger an existing autoimmune disease causing a flare of serious symptoms. Both my daughter, who is the 9th grader, and I have autoimmune diseases that, despite the efforts to protect ourselves, could greatly be impacted by contracting COVID. And unfortunately, not a lot is known about the future ramifications involving the issue. Autoimmune disease by nature is often invisible, and I can assure you it affects far more people than you know that it does. If you contract COVID, vaccinated or not, there's the possibility of post-COVID condition of long COVID. I have a dear friend whose 20-something daughter, a Mason grad, contracted COVID back in November. Despite not having severe initial symptoms, she continues to have severe, life-altering, long COVID symptoms, including cardiac arrhythmia, lung damage, joint pain, memory loss, and an extensive list of other conditions. This disease has potentially impacted her entire life, causing not only physical but emotional symptoms. No one knows at this time what the future brings for her, and it's heartbreaking.
Thank you, Mrs. Trees. Our next speaker, David Van Nies.
Thank you.
Or Nesser, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm David Van Ness. I have 2 children in the school now, and I had 3 children in the school last year. Unlike some people, I was not able to stay home. My job was deemed essential. I went to work. I did contract COVID-19 subsequently, and brought it home, and my whole family was sick with COVID. Luckily, my son was home school, and he was able to continue through school without missing any time. So we were very appreciative of that. So now we fast forward to this year, and we had 500 or 600 students in our school contract COVID-19 and subsequently recover. And what I'm worried about is how we classify those students. So we have a big fight between vaccinated and unvaccinated and mask and no mask. And we give special rules based on your compliance or your situation. Now, I contest that my children do not fit in the unvaccinated category, but in the vaccinated category, as in naturally vaccinated. So I know we all have fear. We contracted COVID-19 during the peak of the deaths from COVID-19. If you go on the COVID-19 website for our state, there's very clear data there. It was a very scary time, And I think a lot of people are still scared. But today, we look at that same data, and we see that we have a very different result. We have people getting sick, we have people going to the hospital, but we do not have people dying. Those days are over, all right? Whatever we've done to this point has worked. We should no longer be treating our students as pariah or separating them or putting them in different categories based on arbitrary things. We do not separate them when they have the flu. We do not separate people from the cold. We do not separate people from anything. Actually, we make an effort to put everybody together because as a community, we're supposed to be together. Now, I am obviously against the mask mandate. I think that every parent should choose for themselves. I think each people are correct in their choice, as was said before. What you choose for your family is very important, and it's very personal. I do not want to be forced to do anything. My children will not be getting the vaccine. They are naturally vaccinated, all right? Many, many people in our community are being called names and criticized when they have no use for this vaccine. They have no need for these masks. I cannot carry COVID-19. That is common knowledge that's been known my whole life. I will not get infected
Thank you,
again.
Mr. Van Ness.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we have reached the cumulative 30-minute portion. We've gotten about halfway through the total amount of speakers we have tonight. I'll ask, is there a motion by the board to extend the hearing of the public? All right, hearing none, then that will conclude the hearing of the public portion of tonight's meeting. I would reiterate to our members of the public that you may always contact us via email, which most of the folks on this
Hold on a
list
second.
tonight.
Charles, could we get a little quiet in the room because we would like you to hear what Charles is about to say.
I'd reiterate, most of the folks that didn't take the stand tonight, I know we have corresponded with through email and through telephone calls. I would encourage you to continue to use those channels. This is an additional channel that we have for our members of the public to address the board, but always feel free to email us, call us. We'll be happy to schedule additional time beyond the 3-minute allocation that we have at this meeting. And this is a time in our meeting when we take a pause and allow you to move on with your evening as we move on with the rest of our agenda. So thank you for those of you who are joining us tonight. Send me an email after this meeting, sir.
It's an election year, just FYI.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was nice, wasn't it?
Sure, it would be a good idea.
All right, the next item on our agenda, item number 7, non-district funded positions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 8, contracted personnel, independent contracts. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 9, certified personnel, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just want to congratulate those that are retiring and moving on to their next chapter, but also welcome those that we're appointing. You see a long list here. And one of the things we're excited to see is a very long list of substitute teachers. Last year we worked really creatively to put some incentives in to keep our substitute teachers in place. This is a long list, and thanks, Tanya, for your team and the work you've done to get that in place. So just want to point that out. We're always excited to see more subs. So if you're thinking about subbing and you're watching this, please join us. We'd love to have more substitute teachers to keep our schools open.
Thank you,
Having
Jonathan.
A list of employees that is a significant list right now is, it's a luxury, not a luxury, but it's a benefit not a lot of employers in general have right now. Very difficult environment.
You're right.
Any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 10, certified adjustments of salary, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a reminder that this comes up as people are finishing either their master's program or getting additional hours in their graduate programs. So we congratulate those teachers that are working hard on that. As teachers continue to get their education and add to those hours, then they move on the salary schedule as well as in honoring that process. So I want to thank those teachers for their hard work and congratulate them.
Thank you, Jonathan.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 11, supplemental personnel, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
You know, if you're looking at the agenda here, I'm always excited about this because it's a long list of all the different options, and you'll see this show up again in another section of our agenda. But I encourage people to see all of the different activities that we do have for our kids. One of the things that we always remind ourselves is Mason Qualities, it is the academics in the classroom, but it's all the other programming that we have available for our kids. And so I just always want to remind people and thank people for stepping up and coaching and investing in our kids' lives. So thanks.
And this is the section with our educators stepping up and helping with those added opportunities too. So it's exciting to see.
All right, any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 12, resolution for hiring non-certified supplemental personnel, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 13, classified personnel, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Sometimes you're traveling along this this agenda and it's going pretty quick, but I want to just, and I always want to congratulate those that are in their retirement season, but Adeline Miller is one of the ones on this list. She's been with us for a long time, serving faithfully as one of our administrative assistants. So there's lots of people I want to pull their names out, but I just want to make sure people are noticing because these are people that have given their lives to our district, you know, and they've served so well. So we're just so happy to see them go on to their next chapter, but sad to see them leave.
But luckily we have her until the end of this calendar year.
We do. So there will be an opening. So if you're also looking, there will be an opening coming up soon.
Awesome.
Thanks,
And
Matt.
any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Did we just do 13? Is that?
Yes.
Yep.
Item number 14, certified personnel, additional duties, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
You know, I'll point out here that this is a time where we do invest in, we talk a lot about our big rocks. So we talk about culture, inclusive excellence, and personalized learning. And we also talk about building leaders within our school district. And so one of the ways we build leadership in our school district is we invest in our teachers and our staff as they lead the different work that's important to us around the district. So just want to thank these folks for stepping up into that role, but also thank the board and for our team for honoring that as part of our work and what we value here.
Thanks, Jonathan. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 15, classified personnel, additional duties, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 16, board OSBA delegate and alternate. I guess, do we do a motion here or do we do nominations?
I nominate President Charles Galvin.
I second.
All right,
Favor?
any other nominations? No? All right. Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Abstain.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Enthusiastic yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
4-0.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. And alternate. Do you have any nominees for the alternate?
I'll nominate Matt Steele.
Second.
All right, Sean? Hold on, any other nominees? No?
No
All right.
competition?
Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Thank you both for doing that.
My pleasure. I'm excited to be the OSBA delegate for 2021. Item number 17, action item, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No, I'll just highlight a couple of these. There's a lot of information here, and a lot of this is at the beginning of the year. We have contracts with the ESCs from around the area for various reasons. But a couple of things on here. There's a tech job that we posted, and I just want to, if that's still an opening, I believe it's still an opening, right, Tanya? Right, good. Before I advertise this, but I want to make sure that people know what we're trying to get is someone who can help us continue to support the Chromebooks that we have in our district. We have a lot of support, but there's constantly fixing, and now that we're one-to-one across the district that we've been for the last three or 4 years, we need someone to keep helping us keep those up. So that's on here. You'll see other agreements that are on here that are specifically to Hamilton County ESC or Warren County ESC, but there's another one on here that's exciting. It's the Ohio Writing Project. The Ohio Writing Project is something that we are engaging in this year. I know Amy and her team are excited about that. They're going to work with our district, but also I think specifically with the middle school on some of the work that they want to focus in on specifics around English and language arts. So a lot here. I just wanted to lift a couple of those up so that you could see them. And there's other things on here. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 18, treasurer's report. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A
Second.
Second. All right. Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 19, committee reports. Let's see.
We had the Mason Schools Foundation. I think is the only committee we've had.
Yeah, so last Wednesday was the monthly meeting in the Mason Schools Foundation board, and you know, I would say besides updates on finances and where they stand with projections and that sort of thing, there are updates from various committees and groups doing work. The big one that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention and make sure that the whole board knows about it. And we've talked about this date, but we're getting close enough that we really need to put it on people's radar and to let you know that tickets are available. So go purchase them, please, tonight. Let's send the signal of support and get that done right away. Is their gala. We're happy to be back together in person at the Manor House again this year, Saturday, October 30th, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. And so I know I've shared the information for how to buy tickets. You can go to I think you can go to their website now if you want to just do that and buy tickets. And encourage everybody. Charles, thanks for pointing out the family that helped support the dog Titan. Titan is Mason Schools Foundation, right? Through the Mason Schools Foundation, but it is a perfect example of the, folks' donation dollars put to work for our students. And so just can't thank the foundation enough, and can't encourage our community enough to step up and get involved for a fun night to support the great things that the foundation does. And they also welcomed a new board member to the board, Christine Mickelson. So that was exciting. It's really exciting to see people stepping up in leadership roles with the foundation too. So yeah, that's really it.
Thanks, Matt. All right, item number 20, legislative update.
I'll give it just a quick update. I don't know if there's a lot of things always going on at the legislative update, or legislative level. One of the things that we're trying to do as a team and trying to engage in is just having conversation with the state again this year as we head into another year, and trying to navigate, and we always are trying to use good wisdom, science, experience, and work as partners, but working with the state level to understand where are we going in the future with quarantines? Because quarantine, I know I brought that up earlier, but one of the things that we're really working through now is at what level, when does quarantine begin to become part of a different conversation? Like, how do we, right now it's at 7 days, do we have further study that could be done to see if that's still necessary for our kids if they're wearing masks all the time? Or is there a way to wear a mask when you come in if you're quarantined instead of being at home? Really, the main goal there is to keep our kids in school. And so we're opening that conversation at the state level. The other thing at the state level that we're continuing to have a conversation around is, you heard a lot of headlines and discussion around schools receiving all kinds of money with these ESSER funds or the funds for relief for COVID. And Sean can tell you, we did not receive like this huge amount of money from the state that you're hearing.
Not huge.
Yes.
A small amount of money, we can say it.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
Seventh from the bottom. We were seventh from the bottom in terms of our ESSER 2 and 3 COVID funding.
How many school districts in Ohio?
Out of 609.
So 609, we're the seventh from the bottom in terms of receiving that. What's complicated if
What you get for calling the governor all the time.
Well, I need to bring this to his attention. This is still something that I have to, it's on my list.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda coming up.
ESSER's, I thought that was federal dollars, right?
It is federal dollars, but they give it to the state to distribute out.
Fair enough.
So that's when it got a little bit interesting for us. The complicated thing, and Sean can tell you this as well, probably better than I could, but we're seventh from the bottom in the money we received. But when you look at other schools that are around us, and I won't say their names, but there are schools that are very wealthy communities, for example, that are receiving double the amount per pupil that we're receiving, sometimes maybe even triple. And Sean and I didn't rehearse this, but he knows. I mean, we talk about this a lot, and so it is a conversation that we're having at the state. I just hope that people that are still tuned in are knowing that we're active at the state, not just about COVID, but about tax dollars and about making sure that we're securing what we need to have here to continue to maximize the tax dollars here locally.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Sean.
Item number 21, administrator commentary.
Nothing for me tonight.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Nothing for me.
Nothing here.
I'll just wrap it up with one thing I do want to say is I want to just some thank yous. Our team, I want to thank our team because we knew it was going to be a different year, had no idea the kind of pressure and things that were going to hit this year. So I want to thank my team for just continuing to be steady and continuing to be thoughtful, and continuing to care for kids and make great decisions and help me to be accountable to that. So I want to thank my team. I want to thank the board for also creating just that steady, thoughtful conversation. People see maybe clips, they see headlines, they see moments, but they don't see what happens behind the scenes. They don't see the emails that you're spending time really thinking through and how to respond, and the Zoom calls that even the President Charles and I will jump on Zoom calls with families, and we have never turned down a conversation. We've never turned down a call, and that is something I'm so grateful for, to have a board that's that engaged, that wants to have that that support and that service to our community. So I want to thank you all as well, and just thank our teachers. We had the most amazing start this year. I mean, we hear a lot of the conversation today around masks, and I hope our community will continue to just love each other. At the end of the day, there's a lot of different perspectives, but at the beginning of the year, we kicked off the school year with our staff. Jen Mott and crew did the most amazing kickoff. Our staff had a great energy coming into this year, and our kids were excited to be here. So there's so many good things that are happening. You might not hear those, but there are so many good things that are happening, and it's because of the support of your leadership. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonathan. Before I kick it to our next item on the agenda, he's sitting out of order, but Todd, did you have anything you wanted to contribute for administrator commentary? How's our middle school doing this week? Dry as a bone? Awesome.
Now it is.
All right. Item number 22, board commentary. Desiree?
I really don't have much. I just wanted to echo what Jonathan said is exciting beginning of the school year, and I know that there's some frustrations surrounding masks and no masks, and yeah, I mean, one thing that is nice though is we have an engaged community, and yeah, we don't all agree, but we have parents that care about the schools and about their kids and what's going on, and that is nice to see, and I'm just glad that, you know, they're engaged with us, and we all work it out together, and, you know, we do the best we can to come up with the best decisions we can, and at the end of the day, we just care about the kids and keeping our school doors open.
Thanks, Desiree. Matt?
Yeah, just a couple quick things. One, I just want to recognize that, you know, during the public hearing portion, you know, it's one of the more tense conversations we've had as a community in a while. But I just want to take a minute and just say that I think everybody would recognize the fact that this is pretty fraught with tension, this discussion, everything with COVID, and especially this year with masks. But I just want to recognize our community, and specifically tonight, that we've handled that pretty well. And I'm really proud of our community that we can be in a room together and be passionate about issues and see things passionately from different viewpoints and in different ways, but to handle ourselves and respect each other and not have a headline coming out. I mean, there are districts all over the country where that I don't think is happening, and I just want to just take a second and just thank our community for that and the ability to do that. I think it sets a fantastic example to our kids and other districts, as we always try to do. You know, a few speakers mentioned, and a lot of people have talked about, and rightfully so, what a great job Jonathan, the administrative team, and our teachers did last year, given the situation. I want to just take a minute to remind, just to take a step back and remember together that the reason we did such a good job is because the administration and our teachers did that in a bit of a vacuum in assistance from professionals who should be tasked with making health decisions and, you know, telling us what we should do and mandates or whatever. We certainly had good partnerships, but last year the robust data that Jonathan talked about existed because we created it, we collected it, we stored it, we analyzed it, we shared it. That wasn't made available to us. And so I want to just caution us not to flip and say, because we did that well last year, we know that we can do things differently this year. That's not the case. The assistance level is not more this year from experts. In fact, I would argue that it's more confusing this year. And so again, schools are stuck making decisions that shouldn't be up to educators to make. And so we will continue, the reason we're doing that well, and we will continue to do that well, is because of your leadership, Jonathan, and your administrative team's leadership, to ask tough questions, to not react to headlines, to really force the question and ask our professionals, tell us what they think truly, point us to the data that drives that recommendation, and to continue to keep our own data and challenge, if we have findings that don't comport with the directions that we're getting, challenge that, stand up and say, here's what we're seeing, think about doing this differently. And I just want to take a step back, remind everybody, that's why we did well last year, and that's why we will do well this year. And so that did not change. And three, I did want to say too that I am proud to serve on a board that isn't swayed by headlines. We expect and we welcome and we honor different viewpoints and the passions of our community. We want to hear that, but I just want to take a second and just say that I'm proud of this board for not bringing agenda to these meetings or to the work that we do, and so I just wanted to say that before we ended. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Kevin?
Well, I'd like to commend Charles, despite some of the ribbing and the appointment of him as ROSBA.
And he is still young.
One of the things that I've found important over almost 20 years is that we handle the hearing of the public consistently. We don't use it to push our own agenda. There may be people we want to hear a lot longer, and there may be people we want to hear a lot shorter. I have sat in that chair right there for many years and just bit my tongue while people talked, but I want that podium to be a place that they can go. But there just needs to be limits around it. Otherwise, it puts the control in whoever happens to be sitting in the middle chair, and that's what sends meetings into being non-productive. So I know there were some people tonight that didn't get to speak, but I want them to know if they come back and watch or if they hear it, that it's been for 20 years. Sometimes there's people that don't get to speak, and that's just because we pick a number and we stick to it, and we think that's the best way to do it, so that we don't just create theater, which I know is one of the complaints that one of the sides here has in the argument. And so well done. I know you were taking the glares, and it might make you look like me in 20 years, but hopefully it's not. Yeah. The other thing I just want to say, I was sitting here the whole time thinking, we get played every time. We are just babes in the woods. I always use the word, we're the bottom of the political totem pole. Somebody mentioned politics, and I thought we were on a path of having the right process. We had a parent choice with a strongly encourage the mask. We had a plan to enter the school year. And then, despite the fact the legislature passed a law that said that governor and health department couldn't mandate the stuff in schools and some other things, which isn't 100% true, but they welcomed that. It put them off of the hot seat. They just came down with the hammer to change the quarantine rules to make them just absolutely clear on the masks. And I don't blame our county health department. God bless them. They try their best. Okay, and we gave them an award a couple of weeks ago in the same meeting. But I was sitting here thinking, these voices need to be heard at our county commissioner meeting. We need a county health department that interprets guidance that's spread on with peanut butter, like a peanut butter sandwich, even all the way across, who can then take that and say, all right, for our community, here's how we would adjust that according to the data we see in our community. And had they done that, I don't think we'd be having the argument here tonight, because I think one side would be comforted that the county health department was supportive of a policy of parent choice and even a strong encouragement, and the other side would be comforted to know that there's parent choice. But I say that because there's so many topics over the years where we think we have a plan, and then, you know, there's just a complete shuffle, 3-card Monte. They open they pick up the shell and, wait a minute, I thought that was right here, and now it's gone. And now we're the ones who are sitting up here needing to talk to our community when the issue in this particular case really is what those quarantine rules are. And I've been a supporter since we went through the hard decisions last year to say we should always want to keep the doors open. We can argue about the masks one way or the other. If the doors are open, at least the kids were in school, not the other way around, where we decide to take a stand and fight the battle and end up with a lot of quarantined kids. So, you know, I applaud the political acuity of some of our colleagues. I don't wish upon our county. I think our county is run very well as well, but I think that's where a lot of comments need to go. The stacks of data need to go to our county health department, because we've read many of these. And many people that might have emailed us thinking that they've sent a novel, we've seen that many times. So that's just a little bit of venting, but I'm happy to hear it. I'm happy to listen to it. I'm glad we give it the time, and I respect every single person that spoke tonight, and that's the way a community should be run. So that's what I've got.
Thanks, Kevin. Connie?
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge the Frisbee team that was here tonight, and those kinds of things are a highlight of board meetings for me. After being on the board for as long as I have, I remember back when we were like a third the size, and the goal was to create more opportunities for kids and not have kids pushed out away from opportunities as we grew. And I think as a district, we've done a really nice job of that. We've had some great leadership in our superintendent position. We've had some great stepping up by educators and parents, volunteer coaches that don't even have kids in the schools. And it really warms my heart to see that happen. And one of the reasons is I think that contributes to the whole child, the whole adult that we're trying to build here as our kids grow, build with families. And the center, I think, of everything that we do, in particular lately, is centered around our students' mental health. And I listened intently to all of the comments that were made tonight. We have had a ton of email. We've had phone calls. Jonathan, I know you've had conversations with parents as well as county and state officials. And I think what we're faced with is what Kevin said. You took the words right out of my mouth. These comments should be sent and heard by the people who are making the decisions. We really don't have the power or the expertise to make some of these health decisions. And what we're stuck with doing is, okay, this is the situation that's been handed to us. What is the best decision that we can do for all kids? Yeah, we know that masks are not the best way for kids to learn for health concerns and mental health concerns, physical health and mental health. It's especially not good for young students to not see the facial expressions of people they interact with on a daily basis. But I feel we really need to recognize and commend our educators and our administrators for trying to do everything they can, including reach out to decision makers, ask if we can be involved with pilot programs to prove or disprove data, at least in our local area, our district. What impacts our kids? Can we do something that's better for our kids and our environment? So I just think that I am appreciative, as Desiree mentioned, that we have a community that is involved and concerned. I think those communities always do better than ones that don't. But I think we need to remember, are we really communicating, all of us, to the people who really need to hear it? And I feel that we need to commend our educators for the environment in which they are continuing to function. Last year, I think we came through it extremely well. And I think we started, as you mentioned, Kevin, with a really good plan. I think our plan now is the best plan we can have for the moment. It doesn't mean I'm ignoring any data. We're just not the experts. And I really do think that the Board of Health, county officials, people need to go further than just the school.
Thank you, Connie. I want to give a shout out to Christine McCormick hiding in the back there. Tonight's meeting, Christine has helped us with facilitating the technological magic powers that we have to facilitate in an overflow room and also stream online. And also, again, wanted to give a shout out to Todd Petrie, who had his hands full this past week with some fun with our middle school and the rainfall that we had. We really appreciate the work you guys do. Sometimes it goes unacknowledged, and we definitely don't want to let the opportunity pass by tonight.
And you know, it's also a special day for Christine.
Oh, is it?
She
What?
decided to spend her birthday with us.
Christine, you should have submitted a request to speak for a hearing of the public. I would
I
have
just love Christine.
shuffled you to the top.
Sorry. Go ahead. Keep going. I'm sorry.
I wanted to appreciate. I wanted to first say I appreciate all the comments from the members of our public tonight. We obviously we've received a lot of emails. We've received a lot of phone calls. We've had a lot of extended conversations with folks all around the masking topic, and we're well aware that there is no solution we can arrive at that is going to make 100% of the people in our district happy. Probably maybe not even 70% of the people in our district happy. There's going to be folks, a core 30%, 20%, something like that on either end of the spectrum. And I don't think that, there's really a, temperature gauging as far as, what should we do, what's the most popular decision going to be. That's not really what I think our administration's focus has been, and I commend Jonathan and I commend our district leadership team for doing the best with the hand that we've all been dealt here. As Jonathan alluded to, we're not health experts, and our primary concern is education. How do we keep the operations of this school district running smoothly and efficiently as possible? And so the place where we're at right now is where we feel like it's the best that we can, balance that stable operation with the educational interests of our students. It's not something that everybody's going to like. It's not the most restrictive. It's not the least restrictive. It is, what we feel is in our community's best interest right now. I enjoyed personally going to our home opener for football this past weekend, seeing a packed stadium for the first time in, felt like over a year, right? Maybe close to 2 years. And, seeing some people wearing masks there, some people were not. We're outdoors, we're, cheering the Comets on. Being able to actually have that game, I think, is just one example as we look at other districts in our county, other districts in our conference that have had to cancel games because of what the quarantine protocols are right now. We do not want to let students lose opportunities like that. We don't want students to miss out on the experiences that define what it means to have Mason quality and have just the full Comet experience. And this is not something that anybody's excited about, I don't think, right now in terms of having masks be worn in classrooms and stuff. But I think that by and large, for the most part, people feel that it's a small sacrifice that if we can temporarily get by with it, then in the long haul we'll be in good shape. And on that note, I will compliment and give kudos to my board member to the far right, Kevin Wise, who I think has impressed upon me and on all of us a vision towards a long horizon and long-term planning. I think in my time on the board, short though it has been, This is probably, the most contentious time in our community around a school-related issue that I can recall. And it's something that has kind of, heated up a lot recently. And I'm proud of the way, as Matt alluded to, that this board has, kind of carried forward without a short-term view, without a short-term agenda on any one particular item. We've supported our administration as the decision came out initially to strongly recommend but not require. Likewise, we've supported our administration as that recommendation changed to a requirement for K through 6. There's more to being up here on the board than, putting a finger in the air and gauging the political winds as far as what masks, should or shouldn't be required. There's a lot more to our job that, we can do to support you all. But I also appreciate, again, the feedback and the points of view that we get from our community. Intend to follow up with everybody who has not gotten a chance to take the podium here tonight that submitted a request, and make sure that they are aware that, again, this is one channel that we have for addressing our board. And frankly, it's the most limited channel that we offer. I know like I said, we have tons of emails. We try to respond to all of them. We try to acknowledge and I don't think we've turned down any requests for conversations. I know I've had some phone calls with families on the weekends recently about masks and, those items. So with that, I don't think I have anything else tonight. I do want to congratulate our Comets on a win to start the season, getting off to a good start there. And also all the, the rest of our fall sports, all of our activities that are underway. It's just great to have families back in the classroom, having all our kids in their, their respective classrooms. I know, we've got a Comet at MECC this year, and we're excited about that. And so just hang in there, guys. We'll get through it. And with that, I will move on to item 23, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.